recall a recent episode that I did where I had two very incredibly inspiring young entrepreneurs on my show, Princeton and Brighton McMillion. I met Princeton and Brighton when I was at a conference recently called AmFest, and I had to meet the woman behind these two kind, respectful, confident little kids, and come to find out they weren't the only ones in their family that were there. There were four other siblings that were there as well. And I am so glad that I met their mom. We're going to have a wonderful conversation today. I am here with EmmaSara McMillion.
Hi.
And she is a TV host, a podcast host, an author, and a mom of 8. EmmaSara, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're
Thank
so
you.
glad that you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, like I said, I had to meet the woman behind these children. It is not every day where you meet kids that will look you in the eye, have such a grown-up conversation. I threw your kids a couple of curveballs when I was interviewing them about their books, and man, they handled that like a pro.
Right.
On-camera interviews something you practice with your children?
That was our first TV interviews, but they're used to, we do things for our media team all the time. So they're used to being on camera for us, but you were the first one that offered the interview for them. So for Brighton, he had been on TV before, but the other kids, that was their first.
They did so well. I absolutely loved it. So tell me your story. As I got to talk to you and I found out that you have this whole family that is basically working together, the family business with the media company that you guys run. But you told me that you homeschooled all 8 of your children.
I did. And, this is the funny part is that I was the woman that never wanted to have kids. And I told my husband, fiance at the time, if you marry me, there will be no kids in your future. We get married, he agreed to it. And then he changed his mind, and I wasn't happy about that. And I realized that I thought the world was too evil of a place. And so I'm like, okay, I don't want to have kids. This man does what now? Prayed about it. And I felt like God changed my heart. And I went to God. I'm a woman of faith, but I was like, Lord, I don't really trust you. You let bad things happen to people. And how do I know my kids are going to be safe? And this was the thing that I really think charted my mission and everything I do with my kids, with homeschooling and everything else, is that I heard him say in my heart, in my spirit, that if I listened to him, that he would teach me to be aware, and that it wasn't his lack, but a lot of times mom's responsibility or fathers for not being aware or keeping their kids safe. So I decided to homeschool so that way I could keep them safe. It wasn't even about education, Amy. It wasn't at all. I just wanted to keep them safe.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow.
I didn't know anything about phonics or anything. I was like, what's phonics? I don't even know what that is.
Well, there's a lot. Homeschooling is a big movement right now. But I feel like there's a lot of pushback from the world on homeschooling that we can get into there. But why do you think, do you think that children really can succeed outside of traditional schooling?
Oh, they can thrive. They can succeed. I honestly, if anybody finishes watching this, I want them to challenge the whole system. Like, why did I ever even believe that public school was the only way for my child to succeed, when the fact is, if you look at statistics and everything else, the kids are not actually succeeding that are going through public school. They're actually being indoctrinated. Now, this side of, raising my kids, I see I made the good choice for their safety, but it really was for their safety because what are they learning in school about gender confusion and all this crazy stuff? And so my kids, we don't do a curriculum. I just did it delight directed. I'm not like an unschooler. I'm not in anything. I'm an EmmaSara who said, God, what is this child's gift? What is this child's gift? What is this child's gift? And they were able to excel, every one of them, in their own areas because I just said, do what you're called to do. And I helped them, give them the right tools. And I am the teacher's assistant. I'm not the teacher. So once they learn how to read, I'm like, I'm just here for an assistant. And if you guys need my help, I'm here. And so they're really self-homeschooled, and they've done like amazing, amazing things.
Well, tell me a little bit about that. Tell me some of the specific things, because I think moms that are watching this show are looking for someone to inspire them and be motivated, because it can be very overwhelming and daunting to want to take on the full responsibility of educating your child and also preparing to motivate them to be, like you said, the best they can be and fulfill what God created them for. So talk to us specifically about how this philosophy impacted each of your kids. Like, what are they doing now?
So I have one of my kids, Brighton, which you met. He was the youngest author of in the nation at 4 years old, a published author, I should say. And so he came up with the story in his, in his own imagination. He verbalized it. So we did help him, of course, but it was 100% his story, start to end. And he got this great this book that was produced for him. My daughter did the illustrations for it, and he's now all over the world. His books are everywhere. He's been on TV. My other son, at the age of 7, I was praying, and I heard the Lord say once again in my spiritual presence, prayer time, I heard him say to get him into organic chemistry, and I'm like, organic chemistry? Okay, I'm terrible at math, science, everything like that. So I asked my husband. He was just in law enforcement, 18 years. Now he was in construction. Do you know about organic chemistry? He says no. So I said, well, God said to get him into organic chemistry. I got a book that's called Organic Chemistry for Dummies. I was too dumb for the organic chemistry for dummies. I didn't get it, but I just gave him tools. I gave him books. And in 6 months, he was assessed by a Harvard tutor for organic chemistry at a same age level of about a 25-year-old.
And he was how old?
7. So my husband and I didn't teach him that stuff. God gave him that insight in his, person. I gave him the tools. He tested out. So each one of my children had that calling. So my other son at 2, he wanted to be a pilot. So by the time he was 16, he flew a plane before he ever drove a car. Even while we went through a season of being broke, in 2018, we lost everything overnight and made $26,000 for a family of, at that time, 10, yeah. We were 10 at that time. And so people might say, EmmaSara, it might be nice financially. I said, no. Like when we were the brokest of broke, my son got $200 an hour plane tickets because God provided that. Like that, we never paid for any of that. And so that was just what he did for Niall. But Von Kensington, at the age of 13, I believe, he was the youngest certified Amazon Web Services cloud practitioner in the world. I'm one of the youngest. That is like, men have a hard time passing this test. I mean, those are just some of the things.
Yeah.
I have other kids, but I have a lot we could talk about. But I just wanted to say those are some of the top ones. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that's incredible because for those people that think your child has no chance of succeeding unless they go through the traditional school method,
Right.
that blows all of that out of the water. I mean, were you the type of parents, you and your husband, who set out to say, we have these goals for our children, or did y'all step back and just simply give them the tools?
Like
and then,
my husband is so chill. Like he's like, whatever your goals are my goals. And so my husband didn't have any goals. He wanted to be a good provider and a godly man. That's what my husband is. And he likes to just teach my sons like science. Now my husband's a rocket engineer, and my son at 19 was the youngest rocket engineer working for Jeff Bezos in one of the facilities. And now he's somebody they send out, they call him kid genius or boy genius or something. And when there's a problem or they need him to fly somewhere, they fly him to be a solutions guy. Wow. And so, and he didn't go to college. So the plan was keep them safe, Amy. I literally was not thinking I didn't even want my kids to go to college because I didn't trust college. So I wasn't raising them like, oh, I'm going to have these articulate, intelligent kids. I was like, I'm going to keep them safe. I'm going to do what God said to do, and that's it. And God did the rest. I'm not kidding. He really did the rest.
what do you think, or what are your thoughts on people saying, when you do that, when you only want to keep your children safe, well, you're not really preparing them to face the world?
My kids are more prepared than most humans, adults in life. When they're like 13 or 14, my kids have more intellect and wisdom. And that's not like a put down. It's just because one thing we do give our kids that is very intentional is we give them discipleship. We give them the word. Everybody has to do spelling, reading, writing, arithmetic, right? So they have to get those foundations down. But then what we do is because they're self-taught, they are used to learning. So you sit down with them, they're going to learn about you, they're going to process what they're hearing from you and have a very intelligent conversation. So, but I want to say this, is my mom was only 14 when she had me. I was that kid in high school that was a pleasure to have in class, but highly distracted. I got kicked out of school when I was 14, got suspended, and my husband went to the military because he was going to go to jail or he could go to the military. So you have these two people, my mom was only 14 when she had me, and so everything is new. We're generational chain breakers. So really discipleship, and then also we teach them, like I am constantly sitting down. I do have intellectual conversations with them. So it would be like you sitting there and I have them do deep thinking, so that's really important to me. So they're deep thinkers.
Oh, I can absolutely attest that because I don't think I've ever met a more confidence is the word that comes to me. And I feel like the parents who are able to give them that solid foundation is what builds that confidence. And you don't get that in public school.
No.
You may not even get that in private school necessarily. So what were you doing? I know you said you guys fell on hard times in 2018. Were you also working and building this career? I know you're an author now. So were you solely focused on the homeschooling or were you also building a career at the same time?
That's a great question. So we went from Oregon. My husband was a correctional officer. So he was a correctional officer, law enforcement for 18 years. And I was raising my first 4 kids very conservatively. We were in, different organizations where it was more like classical style, although I was doing my own thing. But what happened was that the Lord called us into a literal desert, and we left everything behind. He quit his job. We sold our beautiful home in Oregon, and we moved into our RV to go out to the Chihuahuan Desert. And the Lord really called us out there. My husband doesn't ever say, I heard God. He said, I heard God. And this time, I'm like, if you say that, we're going. So we moved out to the Chihuahuan Desert. We got 100 acres in the middle of thousands of acres of the Chihuahuan Desert. Totally flat land, no trees on our 100 acres, and very severe weather. And we moved out there with an income that my husband had established. And I was not going to work anymore. I wasn't going to work anymore. I was just going to live off the land. We were going to do sustainability. We had goats, and that was what I thought. And then just a couple of years into trying to build there, we lost everything, all of our income, and we were totally debt-free. So we didn't want to do any more debt. My husband started to build a construction company. And so everything that you've seen, Amy, of our family now, if you Google our family or whatever, has only been built since 2019. We did everything in that amount of time. And we,
wow.
So
looking back, do you feel like that desert experience was what you needed in order, because it got you to a place where you could rebuild?
Absolutely. I always told my kids there was times my husband would come home or go to work and not have enough money in his pocket to get back home. So he'd have to go work, get the money to go to the store, to come home, and even drive home 40 minutes. And so we learned flexibility. We learned how to be gritty out there. And the main thing is mindset. I'm very deep on that. So with my kids, I'm always like, everything is lost overnight. I'm like, when we're down to nothing, God is up to something. And when it was really bad, I'm like, get excited because God is about to move. And so that's who I am as a mother. And so if a mom doesn't have the ability to do all these different academics, you have the choice to have a mindset, though.
Yeah.
You don't have to know how to do everything. I don't. My kids are way smarter than me, but I do have the ability to teach them how to be upbeat, how to be loving, how to be respectable, how to be responsible. And those are everything that I've given to my children.
In a world that wants to shelter their children from any discomfort, what are some of the greatest lessons that God taught you during those desert times?
Well, Meribah is a mindset. And if we are, people who read the Word, that was a place of murmuring and complaining. And when the Lord sent us over there in my prayer time, I heard him say from Oregon of lush greenery that I'm going to send you to a place like Meribah. And I remember saying, Lord, why not? The place of flowing with milk and honey. He didn't tell me, though, until we were over there and we were struggling and we were without money. And now it's December and I was very, we always went and helped at food shelters. Now here we are at a food pantry and, getting food for ourselves. And it was that moment I heard, during that time, I heard God say, I'm about to take you, I'm going to give you a Joseph moment. So I tell all the family, get really excited. We're coming in on our Joseph moment. He was thrown in a pit, left in obscurity, pulled to the palace. I said, God just said we're going to do, come on this moment. And that month we get a call from a total stranger who watched my son's YouTube channel, because that's part of our story, is that my son was, we have a very extended, so I'm trying to make it brief, but my son had a plane that he was fixing up. That was a gift that was given to him with all of our money that we had. It was it wasn't running. I'm like, Lord, what if this plane breaks down in the sky, right?
Yeah.
But I felt like God said to just sow it all into him. We waited for a paycheck. My husband bought a plane that he wanted to give him something to work on. He worked on that plane on YouTube, and within 2 months, somebody saw that video and made a call and said to my husband, do you know how to do XYZ? Because I have a rocket position, possibility that you might fit. And husband's law enforcement, 18 years. He's working a construction job we only made $26,000 on his construction job that year. Family of 10. Sometimes we had no running water, electricity, and things like that. And my husband had a history from that in high school and always tinkered with stuff in the garage that would have him be ready for such a time as this. And long story short, he ends up doing an interview. They said it's one of the best that they've had in that office, and he got hired. And they relocated us. He started, at 6 figures, and now he's very well known in Blue Origin and is like one of their, trusted people that are helping build rockets.
You use the phrase "God spoke to me"
Yes,
a lot.
I do.
For somebody that is not used to what that sounds like or not used to that at all, but they want to hear God speak to them, how do they start to prepare their hearts or tune their ear to hear what God has to say to them?
First of all, they have to believe and understand that the scripture is true, and it says that his sheep hear his voice, that God's sheep hear his voice, right? And so I've had people say, EmmaSara, God doesn't speak to me. And I say he speaks to everybody. But you have to train your ear, to listen, and then you have to believe that you can do it, okay? Because even my husband struggles, and I think he hears God's voice, and he thinks it's himself. But for me, I'm telling you, it was not EmmaSara that said, get him into organic chemistry. Not at all. That was God. And so one of the other things I would say is that fasting is important. If somebody's never fasted, some people are like, I don't know if I need to fast. I say you need to fast if you want to hear God. And it's in that quiet time, it's in dying to the flesh that you make yourself vulnerable in a way to hear the Spirit.
Yeah, I remember my dad gave me the best advice he had ever given me as we were driving to college, and as he was about to leave, and I'm there on my own, he said, Amy, let me remind you of this. Everything here in college is going to scream for your attention. God never screams for our attention. He whispers to us in the still small voice. And if you don't take the time to intentionally seek out quiet time, alone time, you're going to be distracted. You're going to hear the noise. You're going to hear everyone that yells at you. And I think it's really hard for people to carve out time in a society where we're so distracted by everything, and everything is screaming for our attention. We got to remember that God doesn't scream for our attention.
One of the things I've been doing in this season, because I'm really, really busy. I'm like beyond right now. And so what I've been doing is I'll stop what I'm doing and I go in my living room and I just, maybe have my phone, maybe put a worship song on, and I just literally extend my hands out like Superwoman, and I lay flat on the ground and I just lay there and I just allow myself to think about nothing else in the world. And I just say, Lord, I'm here and I just need to fill up. Yeah. And I get real calm. I think fast, I talk fast. I'm like, I just need to feel your presence, Lord.
Yeah.
Just guide me.
Yep. Well, you've got a book out. Talk to me about the inspiration behind what made you write Ferocious.
Okay. So Ferocious is a book also that was birthed through prayer, of course, but it's about Ferocious. It's a devotional for fierce females. And when we come to this section in life and we're seeing all this crazy stuff happen, we have to ask why. Why and how did we get here? And the book is really, how did we get here? How do we get to this place in society where our autism is more prevalent than not? I mean, it's like 1 in 36 now. Before it was 1 in 10,000, or the further back you go in history, the more uncommon it was. But then you look at also about the birth, the abortion rates and all this stuff. And so I start to line it up, and they're like, how do we get here? And the truth is that there's a real enemy. We're spiritual people. We believe there's God. I believe that Satan really does exist. He really has a plan to destroy humanity. And if you understand the strategy, because I'm a strategist through and through, like if you understand what his strategy is to destroy you, Amy, if you know what the strategy is for him to destroy your family, because I make it personal, it's my family, and I care about you, but at the end of the day, we should always be the most protective of our own household and then take others under our wing. And so the book is really how to be protective of yourself, of your person. If you're a woman, you're going to gain from it. If you have a daughter, I would highly suggest women, moms reading it with their daughters. I suggest women's groups reading it because the lie has infiltrated the church so much so that we have, these churches that are weak and they're quiet, and we have teachers who are teaching our children that you could be whatever you want to be, whether you're a boy and you're calling yourself a girl. And so when you understand the strategy of the enemy to take us out and why he's doing it, then you can step back when it starts to happen. Eyes are open. You're like, I just read EmmaSara's book, and she was saying that this is the enemy's strategy to destroy me. I'm not going to let him destroy me. And it's a choice.
What are some of the top 3 ways that women can be ferocious?
Well, number one thing is you need to be aware of your surroundings, okay? Because part of being ferocious is you're being on the offensive, not just defensive, but you're taking a place where, somebody who's timid is not ferocious. Somebody who is quiet, there is, strength in quietness, but ferocious, we think of that being loud. We think of it being on the offensive side. And so even awareness, though, in the spiritual realm is a tactic against the enemy, because people who are unaware become a victim. Mm-hmm. And so that's one way we can do it. And then also knowing who you are in Christ. Like if you know who you are in Christ, I'm so small. I'm only 5'2". I don't even weigh 100 pounds. Like I don't mess with me.
Even after 8 kids.
I have 8 kids, and my son the other day, he's like, I said something, and he's like, because we're scared of you, Mom. I'm like, well, that's good's kind of scared. You might say, EmmaSara, is that right? I'm like, they better have a little fear of their mother, otherwise they're never going to listen to me. Mm-hmm. We should have a holy reverence towards God. So also being ferocious is knowing your person, being aware, knowing who you are in Christ, but then it's also taking steps now that you know about what the strategy is to take some offense here and go to the enemy's, past enemy's camp and do what you need to do to take back ground in your family, which that could be not sending your kids to public school anymore because, they've been messed with. You could be getting involved with your church, and instead of just going and believing things, that are being taught that are inappropriate or not lining up with the word, stepping back and questioning it, and going, if you're married, go to your husband. If you are in a church group, questioning things, that's ferocious.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, did you see yourself getting into the political world?
No.
Several years ago.
No.
Talk to me about how that happened.
No, I didn't. I had the Mother of Change show, and that was 39 episodes. It was going really well. Women's lives were being changed. I was set to do my second season, and in between second season, I had tickets to go to AmFest, and I had got a press pass, and I was going to do the Mother of Change show over there. Even though it wasn't political, I thought, well, I'll go check out this AmFest, get my press pass. Did that, and a month before we were going, 4 months it was going to be Mother of Change show going. The month before, I heard in prayer, okay, to start this new show, Ignite Voices. And I do have people think, differently about the prophetic. I do have a prophetic anointing, so I do hear a little bit more. To be honest, I do hear more than some people, so that's in fairness. So I did hear very specifically what to do the Ignite Voices show. I had 30 days to come up with the logo, the branding, and everything.
Wait, this last AmFest was your first AmFest?
The one last year.
Okay, okay.
No, this is our second one. So that was our year anniversary.
Got it.
So yes, but we came the same way that you saw us right now. We came exactly the same way. We had already the banners, we had everything. We had the logo, we had the website, everything was up in 30 days.
And what is the purpose of Ignite Voices?
Ignite Voices is igniting change, right? And so we host bold voices that are blazing. This is why everything we have has fire on it. We're blazing change. So that is, how that came about. But I'll tell you this, is I didn't believe that I should, my flesh didn't believe, Lord, are you really calling me to this? I'm doing mothers right now. You want me to get in the political realm? My sons are, political analysts at home. Not me, though. I really wasn't.
Yeah.
And so I was cooking, and I was praying. I'm like, God, do you really want me to do this? Or is this a huge distraction? Because I have a lot on my plate. And I'm cooking. There's a computer on my countertop. I hear a little ting from my email. Go look at it. And it's a violation from YouTube. I've never got a violation before from YouTube. Look at it, and so I'm curious, what's this violation about? Go to push the video. It's 2 hours. I'm I don't have time to listen to this video. So I just randomly hit play, and it's a section where I was coaching women in 2020, I believe. 4 years passed, and I am telling them in my video, which is unlisted because it's a coaching video, and I'm telling them, I just heard in prayer that God said to make a path to the White House, but I don't know what it means. And here I am cooking 4 years later, or however many years later, and I'm sitting here saying, "Did you really call me into politics?" And he's like, I said 4 years ago to make a. I still don't know what that means, but I just know that I'm in politics now. So here I am.
So here you are. Well, what kind of changes? I mean, given the nature of your book and the topics that you touch on in Ferocious, do you feel right now that you're being able to make any inroads with some of the policies that are coming down that touch on the topics in your book?
Yes. So right now I'm with Mom Army, and Mom Army is extremely political. So I'm like the new kid on the block over there. I joined maybe a month ago.
Okay.
But so I'm working really closely with what they're doing, and they're really doing great political things over there as far as legislative go. But right now I am going to be working with my state, and I'm going to be looking for books that are not supposed to be in the library. So I'll be collecting that information. I'm going to be going. That one's not specifically at the legislative level, but it'll be at more of the state level of what's going into our libraries. But still, you have to start someplace.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So are you taking your kids with you when you go and do all this? Are they learning beside you?
Like if I'm without my kids, people are like, "EmmaSara, where are your kids at? Who did you bring with?" I have always a child with me because they are part of the movement as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, and this is the thing, Amy, is I want parents to understand that it's not like your parents and these are the kids and they just go play and they're just kids, they're just messing around. I'm like, my children, if you are with them, they're like little adults in the making, and I understand that.
Yeah.
So like they love to talk about politics. They love to talk about, anything that is going on at any of the events we're at. They are, interested.
Well, you do have a career now on top of all the responsibilities that you have with your children. But how do you think this whole notion of the boss babe movement has affected younger families or just families in general in our country?
And that's part of the conversation in the book. I think it's been a very negative effect because it's the feminist thing. It is the whole I don't need a woman, or I could do it better than a man, or I need to make a name for myself. And I think it's been very detrimental to society. And so I think it's important to have female role models like yourself and even myself. I take it as a privilege to be a role model for women, that you could be strong, you could be ferocious, but you could absolutely be in God's alignment, be nurturing, and still do very powerful things and still love your family, love my position as, a nurturer in my home. Just all the things that a mother should be. Mm-hmm. I celebrate those things rather than seeing them as a burden.
Yeah. Well, tell me some of I just want younger moms to hear from moms who have kind of done it all. I wanted them to hear their favorite parts of motherhood.
The favorite parts of motherhood is relationship. My children are my best friends. And that to me, I mean, like Bijou is with me right now, and I'm like, she is. I'm like, you're the wind beneath my wing. I have a lot of children, but each one of my kids, I have a special relationship with each one of them. And the woman who didn't want to have kids.
Why didn't you want to have kids?
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine my life without them, Amy. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to have kids because I didn't want them to get hurt. And I have a family, and it's like that abuse is high in our family. And I was like, God, why? If I have kids, how do I know you're going to protect my kids? What's going to make them more special? Mm-hmm. Because all of those people were special. They were all special. And raising my kids to be my friends, I raised them to be my friends. And I think a lot of parents don't raise their children to be their friends. And when you see your children as a burden, which the feminist movement is doing to society, then what you do is now you're not only seeing your child as not a friend, but you're seeing them as a burden. This creates trauma in childhood. It creates trauma for society, because when a mother does not connect with her children, the children suffer. And when the children are raised, then they suffer in the relationships. I mean, it's that way with fatherhood as well, but we're talking about moms right now. But I think that if parents together understood what they can give to society simply by putting their children as the apple of their eye, not in a kind of soft mom movement, because there's that too. So I'm not for that. I'm not for the whole let your kids do whatever. I think it's a balance. But I think that, yes, it's been detrimental. I think you could be a strong woman. And I think making my children my friends is the best part of parenthood. And then teaching them about God. I love God, and I'm always teaching them about God. So, I mean, those are my two favorite. And then we work together.
Love that.
We work together. Mm-hmm. So literally everything we do, we couldn't do without each other because we all have a strength, we all have a weakness, and we complement each other. That's my favorite part about being a mother.
Yeah, but what do you say to moms who say, well, it's just a privilege. You're just privileged. That's how you get to homeschool your children. And that's all you get to do. It's just a privilege thing. What do you say to the people that say that to you?
God used me because if EmmaSara could do it, anybody could. I did homeschooling successfully, like as a child of teen pregnancies for eons now. I was born in the bad side of Los Angeles. Like, people were dying on my block from where I came from. And when we left that neighborhood, you don't just leave it emotionally and mentally. It left with my parents. We left, but it was still my parents. So I still had to be raised with that type of mentality. And so, from that respect, I don't come from high class society over here. And then on the other realm of things, when I was in high school, my English teacher was like, "Are you planning to go to college?" And I wasn't at the time. She's like, "You just need to go to you're not even doing grammar well." And so scholastically, academically, I wasn't anything special. When I got married, I was like always having anxiety and panic attacks for the people out there who's like, "I can never homeschool." Like, I used to say I'm the most impatient person in the world, but I'm trying to not speak it over my life, So I can be extremely impatient. I don't grade papers. Like, I don't, with this set of kids, I just want to say this, okay? My first set of kids, I tried really hard. I did schedules. I was planned out. But then they grew up, and my older daughter, or my second daughter, she doesn't remember anything, okay? She doesn't remember anything. And sometimes I don't even know if she knows how to spell. But she got into college at 16. She got into Liberty University. She got straight A's. But there are some things she's not strong at. It's okay. It wasn't because I didn't do my job or she didn't get into college. My point is that now these 4 kids, I don't do any of that stuff because it doesn't matter. I just have them on Khan Academy. They do math and, what I said, writing, reading. I don't really check papers. I don't really know what grade they're in. I homeschool maybe 20 minutes a week.
What?
No, I don't even. I'm like, they kind of look out for each other.
Yeah.
So
are you in a state, though, where you don't have to turn in I guess like not their grades, but some states make them turn in like their requirements.
There are some states. I used to be in Oregon, so we had to turn in some things there. There was testing, and I'll tell you, I was really concerned the first time my kids had to take a test because I was like, what are they going to find out about me, right? But do you know, because of the way I homeschool is directed on letting kids love learning, they tested really well. So that made me feel better about it. But I would just say that it's really not a problem. But I'm not saying don't be lazy about it. I'm saying be intentional about it. It's different. So I'm intentional, but I don't have to be totally hands-on. You just give them the right tools. If I don't have an answer, there's YouTube every single time.
Did you feel like you had to be more intentional at their younger ages when they were in kindergarten, pre-K?
I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm intentional every day of my life with everything I do. And so I'm not perfect. We have laundry and all the things that every mom deals with. So I get frustrated about things like that. But I'm still intentional about character. I'm intentional about discipleship, and I'm intentional about making sure that each one of them is operating in the realm that they were created to be in. And so, if you might say, I don't know about that. I have courses. I have coaching that they could do with me if they're like, I don't know. I can help you because it's my gift.
That's amazing. That's a wonderful place, actually, to go ahead and let everybody know where can they follow you if they're interested in the homeschool coaching, if they're interested in reading your book, watching your show. Can you just let our audience know where they can find all that?
So you can find everything on EmmaSara.com, and you can also go to the Mother of Change Show TV for courses as well.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was extremely inspiring for me, a mother who is going to be homeschooling my children.
You can do
here
it
in the next 6 months or so when my son starts kindergarten, and I'm really looking forward to it. And so you've just been such an inspiration to me. I am definitely going to go check all of that out, and I encourage all of you to go do that as well. But you're welcome back on the show anytime. Anything that you have coming up, please come back and join us.
Thank you so much.